Blender for Noobs.
Hello, this is Dan Nobles and welcome to Blender for Noobs. Have I got a treat for you guys today for this tutorial? This is something that I've been wanting to do for a long time. I just haven't gotten around to it, and finally I've gotten a chance to do it. Basically, this is inspired by playing Call of Duty Zombies and other Call of Duty games. Many times I could be found standing in the game, getting eaten by a zombie or getting shot by another player because I'm looking at the vehicles that are in the game and how they made them look so dilapidated and really run down, and really did really nice jobs on them. So I've always wanted to do something like that. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take this semi, which I modeled, and as you can see right now, it's got the shiny, nice showroom floor paint, and we're going to turn it into this, which is dilapidated, old, rundown semi-truck. So how do we do that? Well, let's get started. First of all, what you'll need to do is you'll need to download this blend file, and I've put this on Blend Swap. So you want to go to Blend Swap. If you don't have a Blend Swap account, just create one. It's free, and I'll put a link to this file in the description. So once you open up the file, this is what you see basically. We have our semi here, and what I'm going to do first of all is just select down here at the layers, just select the first layer so we only see the semi truck. Okay, there's a few things that we need to do to get prepared in order to start doing the texture paint on this. So first of all, what we need to do is we need to bring everything down to as low a poly model as we can. Now this truck, when I first modeled this truck, it's very high poly. It's definitely not game ready, and it won't be, but what we'll do is we'll bring it down to the lowest poly count that we can. So we just select the cab here and come over to our modifiers, and in the subsurface modifier, we want to take both the view and the render down to 0. Select this box here, same thing, take it down to 0. Select the rims, bring those down to 0. And the bumper, bring that down to 0. And actually on the bumper also, we need to make this flat. And choose the grille, take that down to 0. And these headlight areas, take those down to 0. And the exhaust, take that down to 0. And I think that's about it. So where we had something like 191,000 faces before, we now have like 47,000. So still far, far away from being a low poly model, game ready or anything like that, but at least down to where we can work with it. The next thing we need to do is we need to get some of these objects into the same part. So where these doors and the cab is separate, we want to join those. So first what we need to do is just select the door, tab into edit mode, and we want to come up to this window here and go into our UV image editor. And while it's selected, if it's not selected, just choose A to select all. And then G to move these down. Just want to move it out of that window there. And then tab back into object mode. While the door is selected, just shift select the cab, and we want to do a Control J, and that will join those parts together. Now we want to go back into, tab into edit mode, and I'm just going to do a Control up arrow to see this full screen. And I'm just going to select a face here, and then B box select this whole door, and G move it back up into this area here. And doesn't have to be perfect, but just as long as it's in there. B box select this one, move it into place. And the reason I had these doors separate before is just in case anybody wanted to like add some textures to it and put some lettering on the side of the door or something. I thought it might be a good idea to have that separate. Okay, so Control up arrow back to our view here. Tab back into object mode. And actually let's tab back into edit mode. and turn on occlude down here. Or actually, we really don't need to do that. If we select a piece of this window here and come over to materials and really just make sure you're on the glass and select that, it'll select all the glass, and we can just do a X delete faces, and that'll take all the glass out. Now if you wanted to, you could actually make that glass a separate piece and put like a broken glass texture on there. That might look pretty good, but for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm just going to remove the glass. Otherwise, when we render it, we're going to see all shiny glass there, and it won't look realistic at all. Okay, the other thing that we need to do is select this box, tab into edit mode, and actually recently redid this box, and I did not really UV unwrap them correctly. So let's just do a select all, select U, and then do a smart UV project, and then select the defaults just like they are, click OK. And basically what the smart UV project does is just break all the faces apart and put them in the UV image editor window. Okay, and then choose tab, back in object mode. Okay, now basically we need a texture, a base texture, to put over these. And my suggestion, or what I did anyway, is I went out to the internet and I searched for a large high-resolution texture, and I just searched for dirty texture and found something that looked good as like a base texture. You just want something that will kind of dirty up the truck as a base texture, and I'll show you what I came up with. Okay, so this is just the basic image that I came up with. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this to, let's just call this a body texture for the truck, and I'm going to make a copy of it, and I'm going to call this box texture, just to keep those separate. Now just a word about textures. If you're just doing this for yourself, for learning purposes or whatever, it's fine to go get up whatever texture you want to try out. If you're going to share it with somebody else or sell it or anything like that, of course you want to make sure you get a texture that is not copywritten by somebody else. Just want to throw that in there. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is we need to assign the textures. So I'm going to select the cab, and I'm going to choose base color, which is basically what we're using originally for the cab. And come over here and choose node editor. Get into our node editors, and you can see all these crazy nodes that I have on there to get this nice paint job. Well, we don't need the nice paint job, so we're going to change this. I'm going to do a control up arrow so we can see what we're doing here. And these nodes that have the red on them, they're basically muted. So if you select one and hit M, it will unmute them. So I'm going to select these two, unmute them. And I just want to plug in this color here. Now a lot of these we don't need, so I'm going to select this, shift select this, this, and this. X delete. Select this, X delete. And all we really need is the texture, coordinate, image texture, diffuse, and then over to the material, so we can get rid of these three. And instead of having to redo this node here, you can just do select it and do a Control X, and that'll keep your noodle there connected. Control X, and just G move that over. So this is basically what we want. And then I'm just going to choose open, go to my images and get the body texture. And while I'm here, I'm just going to B box select all these and do a Control C copy, so that I'm copying these nodes. Control up arrow, and I'm going to go back here to the box, and by default the nodes will be selected, so I'm just going to hit delete on my keyboard to get rid of them, and I'm going to do a Control V to paste, and that will paste the ones we just copied in there. except for these I'm going to change the image. I'm going to X out the image, open, and go get the one we called box texture, just to have those as a separate texture. Okay, now if we come over here and we go to our shaders, we can change this to texture, and we see that we have our dirty texture on the truck, which is nice. Okay, and at this point I've done all this, so I'm going to go ahead and do a Control S save. And if we look at our truck, you might notice that we're going to have other areas that are not going to look right, like, you know, the chrome rims and the bumper and all that. Nice shiny chrome is not going to look right, so we need to change that. So I'm just going to select the bumper here, and where it has the chrome, I'm going to change this. In fact, I'm going to go ahead, I'm just going to change this to the black flat color or material. Select the rims, do the same thing. I'm just going to change that to black. Same thing with this exhaust. And select the headlight areas here. There's some chrome in there. I'm going to change that to black. And it doesn't have to be black, of course. You can find, you can actually do the texture separate on that and find a real dirty texture or something of that nature. But just for the sake of speed in this tutorial, I'm just going to make it black. And if we select the cab, we'll notice we have some chrome here as well. And I'm just going to change that to black. And that'll catch all the mirrors. These horns, I think I'm just going to change these to grab the chrome and change it to the base color. It'll probably work out okay. Select these lights here. There's some chrome in there, I think. Just going to change those to the base color. Okay, so that's good enough for now, at least to get started. Okay, so at this point we're ready to do a little bit of texture painting. So I'm just going to do a Control up arrow so we can get our full screen here. And I'm going to come down to our object mode and change this to texture paint. And hit T on the tools menu, and that gives us our tools for our texture painting. I'm going to go up here to the brush, click on this, and choose just brush. And I'm going to start by giving the body some rust. So I'm going to change the color to something like an orange type color, orangish yellow or whatever, and bring the lightness down a little bit. And the radius, 35 is fine, but the strength I'm going to go down to something like 0.164 and just start painting in here. And why isn't it working? Because go into object mode. I need to make sure that I have the cab selected. So kind of good that I did that in case somebody else makes the same mistake. Okay, go back to our texture paint, and then we can start painting. And I need to put my strength back down here. Maybe a little bit more. Let's give it some rust here. And if you have never painted in Blender, did any texture painting, then when you lift up on the brush, basically lift up on your mouse button, each time you go over it gets darker and darker. Kind of makes sense if you ever used anything like Photoshop or anything like that. And I can't paint the box yet because I don't have it selected. So I'm not going to do, a fantastic job here because I'm going to be going quick, but just to show you, when you're doing this, you can kind of tap into your artistic ability and, have a lot of fun with it. I think this to me is a lot of fun because it's not something I get to do very often in Blender. I'm not going to do the other side very much, just for the sake of saving time, but at least you can see what we're doing here. And once you got that your rust the way you want it there, then what I would do is come down to the radius and just bump it down as far as the size. Bring up the strength to maybe 0.393, and just kind of go along the seams, because rust tends to gather at seams where water can get in and kind of sit there. Maybe make it look a little bit realistic, more realistic, I don't know. And you'll notice also when you're painting, if you don't have your view exactly right, sometimes it won't actually paint over the vertices there. So if you're finding it's not painting, just turn your model a little bit and you should be able to get it. And something screwed up with my UV unwrapping there. Not a big deal. Okay, so once you got your rust the way you want it to be, and of course we got to do the box as well, but then what you could do is just make this real dark, bump up your radius a little bit, and bring the strength down maybe 0.2 something. And then you can kind of darken in some of these areas, make it look kind of smutty and dirty. So it's not just, rust, it's been kind of, I don't know, close to a fire or just sitting there and got all dirty or whatever. And you usually see on these models, like, one spot that's like really burnt out, I don't know why. It's just the way it is. But so anyway, you can kind of play around with that, and hey, if you wanted to like make your truck a camo truck, you could do that with some green and some lighter green and some tan. That would work too. So once you got that, you can go back to object mode, and we can select our box, go back to texture paint, and then you can paint the box however you want to, just so it kind of blends in with the rest of the model, basically. Okay, back to object mode. Control up arrow, and I'm going to do a control save, control S save. And of course, with your model all burned out and everything, you don't want these nice shiny headlights here, so you'd want to select your headlights and go back to your texture paint and just kind of darken those up quite a bit. Need to bring my radius back down. And got to select those other lights as well. Okay, and we also have the horns. And I'm very scared to even touch this because the last time I tried to do this tutorial, it sent my CPU into overdrive, and my computer went bye-bye for about an hour, and I was hoping it would save everything. I did save my video and audio file, but unfortunately my blend file finally crashed after about an hour of waiting. So that's why I'm saving and saving often, just in case you're wondering. Okay, so on the horns, right now I have it as at the base color, but you're not seeing anything basically because I don't have these UV mapped. So if we go over to our UV image editor, tab into edit mode, select all, choose U, and just unwrap them. Once you do that, actually let me try that smart unwrap or smart UV project. Okay, yeah, it's picking up the base color, which isn't working at all because we're using that entire UV map to do that. So for those, I'm just going to change it to the black, just for lack of time there. Okay, now the other thing that we need to do, and I'm not going to do this, but just mention it, is all this back still here. I mean, you can leave this, you know, make it really black or whatever so it doesn't show up that much, but you don't want it especially to show up nice and clean and shiny. So you could actually get an image that is, you know, sort of like a dirty image, but maybe, you know, more black than anything else, and do that as well. Just paint over that. I think you get the idea there. So basically, I mean, that is pretty much it. I'm going to get rid of those tools, do another save before I render this. And actually, I think before I render this, I'm going to add some more color to it because it's looking almost too much like it's smudged up, like a camouflage or something. So select that. I'm going to go back into texture paint and choose black here. Go pretty big on the radius. Yeah, these top lights just aren't working. So it might be a good idea just to change some of those colors. And I see I've missed some chrome here, so I'm just going to select this and change this to the black color, black material. Same thing for this. And this grill is not working out, so I'm just going to remove this black speck material, make that all black. Select the emblem, same thing, the chrome needs to be black. Okay, and these stretched UV mappings here is really messing me up because that's the only thing on the truck that right now, at least from this angle, that is bad. Other than that, I'm going to go ahead and change this back part to the black, as well as this part here, which is a fifth wheel, I have learned. Okay, so let me see if I can fix this part right here. So basically it's just those UVs are stretched. So let me go into faces and select that face there. Go over here and go to our UV image editor. And that's the problem, it's flat, so it's really stretching that image across the whole face. So I'm going to shift select that face, shift select that one and that one. Really might as well get these two. Yep, those are problem childs there. And I'm going to do a U unwrap. And now they are huge. Scale them down, kind of to where they need to be, and just G move them out into the open here. And now we can go ahead and paint over those, and hopefully they will match as well. So I'm just going to darken those up. Okay, and there is something behind there. I think it's part of this body of the truck. Not going to worry about it, just to keep this tutorial from going too long. Go back to object mode, select the Ford emblem there, and just going to paint over that as well, just so it doesn't stick out. Okay. Back to object mode. Do a quick save. Okay, and I'm just going to shift select my light panels there. Do a F12 to render. Alright, so there you have it. We've turned our nice, shiny new truck into an old rundown semi. Of course, you want to do something with these tires, get rid of the texture or whatever there. And I really went overboard as far as darkening up this texture, but that's okay. If you take your time with it, you can make it look a lot nicer than what I've done. And really interested to see if you do anything like this. Post it somewhere, send me a link, I'd be happy to look at it. And I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please rate, subscribe, comment, and I'll catch you in the next video tutorial. Thanks for watching.